This is Krista. Welcome back to Made to Be Whole. Stay tuned for part 2 of our discussion on options for preventing, treating, and diagnosing cancer.
Made to Be Whole is intended for informational purposes only. It's not intended to replace the advice or care of a licensed healthcare professional. Participating in this podcast does not constitute a provider-patient relationship with Krista Michener, AHP Integrative Health, or any of the guests featured on Made to Be Whole. Krista Michener, AHP Integrative Health, and any featured guests aren't responsible for any losses, damages, or liabilities that may arise from use of information obtained in this podcast or associated materials. Please consult a healthcare professional for any health-related concerns that you are experiencing.
Welcome back to Made to Be Whole. Last week, we talked about secondary prevention, which is early detection of cancer. We talked about some really great screening options that weren't around not very long ago. But today, we're going to talk about what you can do to both prevent cancer from happening in the first place and what you can do to support your body if you've been diagnosed. And those may seem like two pretty disparate things, but there actually is quite a bit of overlap in what we would do. We're looking at a lot of the same tests and interventions because what we're trying to do is set the body up for healing, to remove toxins, to reduce inflammation, to improve mitochondrial function. So we are going to be offering, beginning this summer, a oncology support protocol. And I want to be really, really clear about this, what this does and does not do. We will have on the show soon Rachel Hill, who is a nurse practitioner working at AHP, who worked in the field of oncology for over 10 years. So she has a lot of experience with the treatment side of things. One of the reasons we're doing this is we do have a fair number of our patients, especially from the plain communities, who will go out of the country for cancer treatment. And the reason they gave me, it jives, but what a lot of them say is, hey, here in the States, the treatment they do just tear you down. And we want to go somewhere where your body's also being built up. So they'll go to clinics in other countries where they do supportive nutrient therapy, all sorts of other things to help the body. And people like this idea. And I will tell you, I like the idea too, but I have safety concerns because it is really, really difficult to get adequate follow-up from another country, especially when there can't be eyes on and hands on. So I still remember one woman coming who clearly had ascites, which is this accumulation of fluid around the abdomen. She was not doing well. I would try to say something to her. No, I talked to my doctor in this other country. He says I'm fine. He says I'm fine. And I knew she wasn't fine, but they put so much trust and so many resources into that person and their treatment. And I think it was misplaced because I'm not saying if somebody has a stage 1 or stage 2, they couldn't go to one of these distant places and get proper intervention and have good long-term results, but you have to have follow-up and you have to have eyes and hands on. So we had actually for a while been working or trying to work with a hospital in the area and proposed, hey, if you have oncologists who are willing to provide treatment to these patients and are willing to sign off and give your blessing to us giving supportive care, that would be a great benefit for our community. That would be a benefit for your hospital. That would be a benefit for patient outcomes because they could have care close to home. They wouldn't have the cost of travel, all of these things. And the reason we wanted to do that in partnership is because, first of all, we are not oncologists. That's not our license. That's not our training. I'm not making any legal claims. But what we can do in the integrative medicine space is we can do things that support the body through healing and help people to have better outcomes with their treatment and tolerate it better, plus providing more education, emotional support, all of those sorts of things. And I thought it would be so exciting to merge resources. And we also want, as providers, we have to give deference. If somebody is being treated by an oncologist, that oncologist is going to want to know all the other care that you're doing, just like we want to know that. And it has to be something that's mutually agreeable. So our hope was, hey, let's find some oncologists who are going to recognize, oh, here's a group of people who need help. I can help meet their values and preferences and provide quality care and collaborate with someone who is a licensed medical provider who has experience in oncology, and we can be partners in this. But that fizzed out. And so now Rachel's with us full time, and we got to thinking, what could we offer? Even without that partnership, what could we offer? So for our oncology support program, you can do it in one of two phases. We can do it as post-cancer recovery. You've completed treatment and you've been LUT free, but you're afraid of what's going to happen next. You want to stay well. You might be weak and depleted from your treatment. There's just a lot of questions transitioning out of patient life back to civilian life. So we can help you in that stage. We are willing to help people who are undergoing treatment for cancer with the permission of their treating oncologist. So we're not your sideshow who's going to do this in secret. We want them to sign an agreement with us that says they understand the scope of the services that we're providing, that they agree to that. We're very, very open to, as I hope everyone is, we want good science and collaboration. So we don't want to do treatments that would be contraindicated. Yes, people in the natural world forever talk about high dose vitamin C. Oncologists say high dose vitamin C is terrible because it's an antioxidant and you need oxidative stress during cancer treatment. But then what happens is those two sides can never mesh their views. So while it is true that high dose vitamin C when you're doing certain treatments is contraindicated, that doesn't therefore mean all vitamins and minerals are bad and contraindicated and a waste of time. I've been a little disappointed with the care one of my family members has gotten because they touted the program as this holistic treatment options for older people. So you go for the first visit and they have a nutritionist and they have a physical therapist and other people talk to you. But then after that, they're just giving a treatment that suppresses the immune system and then digging on any supplement the patient's taking because, well, we don't know a lot about supplements. Oh, yeah, your white count's dropped. Your neutrophils aren't high enough. Oh, you have a UTI. That's because we're giving you treatment that suppresses your immune system. Don't worry about that. But what we're really worried about is this vitamin you're taking. That we don't know a lot about vitamins. That makes me want to rip my hair out. So if I had cancer or my husband had cancer, what I would do is I would look for an oncologist in that particular subspecialty because not all cancers are the same, that was open-minded, that would be willing to talk and collaborate with me, and that would give me good statistical information to make informed decisions about treatment. So another one of these false dichotomies, I think, in oncology versus integrative or alternative treatment is this idea that chemotherapy and radiation or surgery are either all good or all bad. Either you need it and you fight everything or you just throw it out because it's terrible. There are some cancers that have excellent, excellent, excellent outcomes with chemotherapy. If you have a cancer that your oncologist can say, well, look at the data. There's this really, really outstanding percentage of cure, remission, yada, yada, yada with this therapy, then it's something that you should do. If they can give you data that says, yes, radiation for X type of cancer, we have these risks, but we see this benefit, and I think that it's worth considering. But what I hear instead is people tell me, well, they just said we should try everything. We just have to fight. And so if it starts with C, cancer, you're just going to do everything, which includes immunosuppressive treatments, not just immunomodulating treatments, which includes treatments that have a lot of side effects, can negatively impact quality of life, increase infection risk, but don't necessarily have a correlating better outcome in quality of life and recovery. And so what I would be looking for if I had cancer is somebody who is willing to sit down and give me some statistics and some data and facts and helped me to make an informed decision. So what we can do with the program that we're going to propose, it's going to be a 1-year program and it's a multidisciplinary program. We had talked about it before, but we have a much more robust team. We have some new employees that are going to help this be awesome. So some of the testing we're going to do initially, and the reason we're going to do this initially is these are things that can help us identify the right interventions. We've talked multiple times in this podcast. Guessing is expensive too. I am not going to have someone come in and just take their money to give them certain IVs because they're good for you or good for your immune system or good for their energy when I have no idea what their nutrient status is, when I don't know anything about their genomics, when I haven't looked deeply into if they're hauling around toxins, gut health. That would be irresponsible of me. And I think it would be unethical in reality because we have better tests now. We haven't always had better tests, but we have better tests. So some of the initial labs are going to include things we've talked about on this podcast before. Intelligence DNA. It's one of my favorite things on planet Earth. What does it have to do with cancer? Now, it does not have genes like the BRCA gene. It's not going to show us, oh, yes, you're at high risk for this specific type of breast cancer. What it identifies is, do you have impaired detoxification pathways because of your genetic makeup? Do you have a higher risk factor for specific cancers because of genes? Do you have prolonged inflammation after infection, injury, et cetera, because of your genes? And can we target specific inflammatory pathways? Are you prone to impaired mitochondrial function because of your genes? So let's choose interventions that target that. So it really can help open our eyes to what may have made you vulnerable to cancer in the first place, which is why if I am looking at cancer prevention for someone, I would do this exact same test, because what would be ideal for the whole world is to catch these things and know what your arsenal of tools is before bad things happen. Because best case scenario, you prevent them from happening. But even if you don't, you know right away what your tools are, and you can have better outcomes. So I'll give you an example that's not cancer related, but an idea of the sorts of practical things you can glean. So included in the Intelligence DNA testing, some of the panels talk about anesthesia risk and tolerability. So my dad yesterday actually had surgery, and between his last surgery for his ear and this one, we had done Intelix. His last surgery, he had a really, really difficult time in recovery. He had a hard time waking up. We get the DNA report back and it says genetically, he's going to have a harder time clearing certain types of anesthesia. And so certain types should be avoided, or they should use lower doses, gives all these specific details. So I printed out for him just those few pages of it. He took it to the surgery and they said, well, you didn't have any trouble last time. And he said, well, after you left the room, I couldn't wake up. Then the anesthesiologist looked at the report. My dad said they actually took the report back, the nurse anesthetist and anesthesiologist. They spent a lot of time with it. They made adjustments in the dosing, and he had no trouble waking up from his surgery and was even at our house for dinner last night. I mean, that's phenomenal. That right there is huge. But that's the sort of thing, because it's not, again, anesthesia's good or bad. It's, George Dean has certain vulnerabilities based on his genes, so he should not use certain things or should have much lower doses of certain other things. So that's the sort of actionable information that you can get from the DNA testing. One of the detox pathways that specifically implicates cancer risk, I have mentioned this before, but my husband and I both have one copy of a gene that makes it much harder to detox from benzenes and some other environmental toxins. So benzenes, gasoline, but our household exposure comes from having gas stoves in the house, comes from having attached garages that we're heating our cars up in, maybe a gas fireplace. When we did our kids testing, the ones who've done it, a couple of them each got the quote unquote bad copy from both of us. So Eric and I are a little impaired. We knew that. But it turns out that our poor kids who got the double dose of this, they have a 96 to 98% reduced ability to clear benzenes. Now, when I first read this, I'm head scratching, trying to figure out what's going on. I did urine toxin testing, which we're also going to include, found out that Gideon's full of benzenes. So then it took me over a year to figure out where they were coming from, because I couldn't find the information I just cited to you about gas stoves in the house and about attached garages for vulnerable people. I hadn't found the Stanford study that says people who live in houses with gas stoves have higher rates of leukemia. I can almost guarantee that most of those people have the same stupid genes that my son has, because when I was researching before I found the answers about sources about chronic benzene toxicity, the only information I could find was, that's too bad, you'll probably get leukemia one day. I mean, that was the best I could find, kind of like, best of luck, this is in your future. So if you've had leukemia, this would be really important to know. If you haven't had leukemia, this would also be really important to know, because you really don't want to get it. So we're still in the middle of doing all of the changes we need to reduce that exposure. Because again, think about it as everybody's exposed to toxins, but if you've got a pump as the toxins are being poured in, that's pumping most of the bad stuff out, you're going to keep up. But if instead you have someone there with a teaspoon who can only take a teaspoon out a day, the accumulation is going to be faster and is going to have a more significant health impact. And there are other things, other detoxification pathways that are included in that test, but that's the one I bring up because I have that personal example to share, and it's pretty concrete, but it does look at like glutathione production, glutathione pathways, detoxification from heavy metals, etc. So in that VAMP, one of the other tests that we are including in this is a total toxin screen, a urine tox screen that looks at mold, because mold exposure is associated with immunosuppression, and there are some types of mold that are associated with increased risk of some cancers. It also includes environmental toxins like benzenes and other things that you can be exposed to. It includes glyphosates, which comes from pesticides, all those sorts of things. Let's figure out from the beginning, if you have cancer, are there toxins that overwhelmed your system and made you more vulnerable? Can we address and clear those? We will also do my SpectraCell micronutrient test, because we've got to know what your nutrient deficiencies are, and a GI map, which is stool testing, looking at gut health, because we know gut health impacts our mental health, it impacts our immune system, it impacts our ability to heal, so many different things, and a few basic labs. We're going to divide this into 4 phases, and we're going to schedule all your visits up front for the year so that you have a treatment schedule. It's not as if you can't have something come up in your life and change a visit. It's just, we want to help you have everything you need to be successful in this. So phase 1, in addition to obviously meeting with your nurse practitioner, we have a nutritionist now, Kelly, who is also, we're going to drag onto the show soon, who's going to talk to you about nutrition and gut health. So we are going to work on restoring gut health. We're going to work on diet. We're going to work on supplements as indicated that could include IV nutrients if there are things that are lacking significantly. Sometimes you need the IVs to get up faster out of that deficiency range. And then it will include time with your health coach too, to help you with making all of these changes. Phase 2 of the program is a nervous system reset. So at that point, we're going to look at saliva cortisol testing. You're going to be working on, if you found toxins in your body, finding out where they are in your environment. So it's me wasting your money and your time if I just give you supplements and medications to get mold out of your body or to detox from benzenes if we don't figure out where they're coming from. So we're going to be working on finding the sources of toxins, figuring out if your cortisol levels are out of whack and bringing those in balance. And then we actually have a team of 3 providers that can work with you in 3 unique but kind of overlapping ways for resetting your nervous system. You have met 2 of them if you've been a listener of the show. The 3rd one will be on sometime soon. So Truly Moore is a physical therapist who works out of our office. She has a doctorate in physical therapy. She does a lot with chronic pain and with resetting the nervous system, like getting you out of fight or flight, that nervous system response. She's got some great resources. So spending time with Truly, if you have had abdominal or pelvic cancers, she can work with you specifically on pelvic floor therapy. But for other cancers that you may not have those particular issues, but there's still weakness, there's still rebuilding, there's still frequently pain and things that she can help you with that are practical. You've met Daniel before, who does neurofeedback. Neurofeedback is a fantastic, fantastic intervention for pain, for nervous system regulation, and for trauma, because everybody's got some trauma. And I think many people who go through something like a cancer diagnosis, there's some medical trauma involved too. And so neurofeedback is just a very nice, non-invasive way to help your nervous system reset and to process those things. And then we have not one, but two counselors who are joining us in the spring who both have a lot of experience dealing with chronic disease, helping you through the grief, the change, the identity, like just so many things that go with that, who get it. You don't want to have to start with trying to explain why you feel the way you feel or how it impacts your life. So that is phase 2. The reason we're breaking it down, just so you know, is first of all, your body and brain can also help so much, but also it gives you the chance to establish habits in one area before moving on to the next. And then, if you finish phase 2 and you do your nervous system reset and you've worked with Truly, Daniel, and one of the therapists, then afterwards you might say, I really feel better. I think I'm good. Or you might say, I really think I need some more counseling. I'm going to schedule some more appointments, and you can do that. We want you to get a taste of kind of all the resources that are available so that you can use a more complete repertoire of modalities for healing, but also to learn what's most effective for you, for your body, your mind, your lifestyle, and you can go from there. Phase 3 is move and rebuild. So lab-wise, that's we're going to bring in prodrome. We're going to see, are we missing key things to rebuilding the nervous system? There's residual neuropathic pain. We're going to work on physical movement. So, with working with the physical therapist, hopefully we've worked through pain and we can be incorporating regular exercise. Lymph support, we have a Flowspresso system, which is a really cool lymph suit that has red light therapy in it, has infrared technology in it that can help if you can't actively do the movement, that there's passive work on that lymph system, and also moving toxins. Okay. So during those first few phases, we're going to be doing that investigation to figure out, is there mold in my house? Is it where's this coming from? Once we've taken care of the environmental piece, we can start moving toxins out of your body. So we can do that through supplements. We can do it through IVs. We can do it with plasmapheresis, even we might recommend for some people, which is a way of kind of filtering your blood. But the wisdom behind the order of this is that your body will be able to tolerate this if you've done the other two things first. If you try to flip it and you say, no, I just got to get rid of these toxins first, very, very frequently people can't tolerate that treatment because they're putting the cart before the horse. So there's a method to the madness. Phase 4 is moving on and a transition to self-support. So you'll be meeting with your coach, doing another check-in with the therapist, figuring out, do you feel ready to move on and kind of tackle life with a lower level of support? One of the things that Rachel Hill, our nurse practitioner who's going to be overseeing this, said to me that really drove me to keep pushing to get this built is, she said, there's the issue of survivorship. So people, they beat cancer, they make it through treatment, they've had a high level of emotional and practical support through their treatment and through their journey. And then all of a sudden you're just done. You're just done. What? You don't need me to come back for any more appointments. I don't get to talk to this nurse anymore. Your outside support probably will have been cut off too. People might not be bringing you dinners or checking in on you because they think, oh, it's great. She's done. She's finished it. And that survivorship can have a real impact on people. And your identity a lot of times has become this illness because your life had to be built around it, because treatment can be so intensive and time consuming. So we want to set people up to live as well people, not as patients. And so in phase 4, you're going to have fewer check-ins, but it's going to be just in that kind of backing off. We're going to recheck your SpectraCell test to make sure your nutrients are back where they need to be, and see what we can do on a maintenance basis, because you're not going to need as much as you did at the beginning. And then you can make determinations about future care. Some people may say, hey, it was a great year. I feel good. I'm ready to go. Some people may want to do a maintenance type program with us where they come periodically to check in with the providers. We have our different wellness membership levels. What we are really trying to focus on is how can I give people the tools that they need to live well now and in the future. And it's not a quick fix. It takes time, but it's time that's worth spending. It's not free. It costs money, but it's money that is worth spending, in my opinion, because your health is everything and you really don't know until it's gone. I'll tell you kind of a funny story. My poor son Gideon, who you've met on this podcast, somehow last week hurt his neck really badly. He was just turning to brush his hair and he displaced his second cervical vertebrae. It was bulging and like pressing on nerves. He was in exquisite pain. It was really, really bad. Thankfully, we got to Truly, the physical therapist who was able to help us. But something he said that was really cute, but really true. He goes, I feel so bad for old people. He said, old people are always complaining, oh, my neck hurts, my back hurts. And he had always before thought, oh, whatever, you have neck pain. He said, neck pain is terrible. And I think that's true with health in general. I mean, we can theoretically look at someone and say, oh, yeah, they have neck pain. But until you've had neck pain that's so severe that you can't turn your head and it hurts to be upright, it's hard to really relate. What you can give yourself the gift of is trying to prevent from getting there, or if you're there, what can you do to get back? There's so much rebuilding that can be done. Do I make anyone guarantees about how well they're going to be, how fast? No, we had someone who hung up on our office and didn't want to schedule because they couldn't guarantee that he would be better from a certain illness and in a certain amount of time. And I thought that's fine, because I don't think you would probably be a very good patient because people are so individualized. It would be great if there was a standard timeline that fit all scenarios, but there's just so much we don't know. But we can give you the tools to improve your quality of life. I can't promise everything will get better, but I can promise that some things will. And I can also promise that as you take accountability and engage in your own healing journey, and instead of seeing yourself as a victim of illness or a prisoner to healthcare system, you decide to take the bull by the horns and negotiate and advocate for yourself, that you are going to feel better, because there are things that are in your control. And the more you focus on those instead of the things that aren't in control, the happier you're going to be. Whether your life lasts another 5 months, 5 years, or 50 years, you are made to be whole, but you have to be the one that navigates that journey. Nobody can do it for you. We can be there with you, but we can't do it for you. The other thing that I'll end with too, that I think Rachel could provide, is for people who are going through treatment, if you have an oncologist who is willing to let you work with us, she has the ability and we have the time in our schedule to maybe give more intensive education that you might get other places if you have confusion about test results and what they mean. And then also, she's got eyes on you too, an extra layer of protection for if she sees something that needs to be reported or needs to be treated right away. You can't say just because someone's a doctor or a nurse practitioner or a PA or anything that they can adequately oversee what you're doing or have good insight. I will tell you right now, I would not be doing this program without Rachel, because I don't have that experience she has in oncology. I have experience in other fields. So bringing someone who's been boots on the ground and can be eyes and ears helping you navigate the journey and talk through pros and cons, I think is also fantastic. So please spread the word on this. I'm really, really excited. And if you know, I will throw this out too. If you know open-minded providers, especially oncologists who you think might be willing to partner with our patients, we would be thrilled to reach out to them and see if we can build community and build some resources that can give people more control and education on their journey to healing through what can be a pretty scary time. So remember to have hope, because you were made to be whole.
Have a podcast question or suggestion? Text or call us on the podcast info line at 330-439-0686. Thank you for spending time with me today. If you like what you hear, please subscribe to be notified when new episodes release. And remember, you were made to be whole.